Hi, good afternoon. Welcome to another week recap and look ahead. So, I'm going to be making a separate small video on oil, just specific to oil. So that'll be on the lookout for that. So there's going to be two coming. One's going to be equities and overall, and then one's going to be just oil with the OPEC cuts. We'll briefly touch upon it, but that'll be a little bit more specific just to oil. Okay, so hope everyone had a good week. Was interesting with earnings. We'll get to it on reactions and things of that nature. We're just going to start as we usually do on the S&P. So first things first, let's just get it out of the way. Liberation Day, that whole move is now gone. Okay, we were here on Liberation Day. We closed at 56.70. Today we close Friday we closed at 56.86. So we've already taken back the entire Liberation Day movement is gone. So now what? Um, we had earnings this week from the megas. All the Mag 7 have basically reported with the exception of semis. But everybody else is out of the way now. As anticipated, they all were asked questions about tariffs and they all answered them, some good, some not good. I think out of all of them, the biggest disappointment from a tariff standpoint was probably Apple. If I remember correctly, I think they said they were on the hook to lose something like $900 million or close to a billion on this, something like that. I don't remember exactly. I had some notes and I lost it, so like, don't quote me on that. But they were definitely the biggest disappointment from that. Outside of that, um, we're going to get into it. Google did well last week. Meta did well. Amazon did well. Relatively, Microsoft did phenomenal. So um, one of the reasons why we're not up at 5,800 is because of Apple. Microsoft and Apple are number one and two in the S&P by weight, as well as one and two in the NDX by weight. And you had a little bit of a crisscross where Microsoft went up and Apple went down. So they kind of balanced each other out, but we'll get into it. So now what? The reality is we've had a big move off the bottom. Could we keep going up to 5,800? Yeah, sure. Why not? I don't see why that's not in the cards right now. Um, could we retrace and fall back down? We could, however, just some things to keep in mind is number one, we've reclaimed the 200, and I think we're going to hold this. I don't know if we're going to go back up to all-time highs or make new highs or even get remotely back up to 6,000. Obviously, anything is possible. I would venture to say that we probably build out over here and probably trade between 5,600 and 5,800 on the S&P cash. I just think that's what we're going to do now. Again, a lot of it is dependent on what happens um, with a few things. One, what happens with the tariffs? Number two, what happens with how we deal with China? Number three, I think that um, Fed cuts are on the table now, so that potentially could be coming. When they happen, I don't know, but I definitely think that they're on the table now. So we're going to have to play this out. I'm not sure, honestly, if everybody was getting all excited about the NFP numbers. I think they're very deceptive. I would like to see what happens next month because next month will really take into account tariffs. And I think there might be a slowdown in hiring. I remember these numbers are always backwards looking. So I'd like to see what happens with the May number. I don't The April number to me is not as important because that really was only Q1 and Q1 hiring and those decisions were already made. I want to see what happens in June with the May numbers. I'm not so keen on this May number on this April number. My gut is telling me that that might be a one-off because really tariffs started happening when the tariffs happening for April 2nd. So those non-farm numbers they were already that was already done. So I'm not so jumping up and down and getting on the bandwagon on this. But we'll have to see how this plays out. Um, so that's S&P. Let's go to NDX like we always do. We always go through the majors quickly, and we'll go through individual names. NDX also same thing again. They Liberation Day is we're way past that. We had two gaps, which kind of just basically rocketed us through it. So we're again reclaimed the 200. Um, I think that tech probably has a ways to go. I think tech can probably get up to 20,500, probably maybe even 2,100 on the NDX. I think that might be in play here. Um, We'll have to see how that goes, but tech got a big, huge relief bounce. So we'll have to see where this goes. But they're looking good. I normally, as a technician, when you're looking at certain things, we'll just go to the S&P for just we'll go back to S&P just quickly for one quick second. What you're usually looking for is you're looking to see if a low gets retested. So we never retested this low from earlier in April, and we never tested this low from towards the end of April. At some point, and I'm going to go back to the index in a second, at some point, those may get tested. You now, does that mean it's going to happen now in the foreseeable future? That I don't know. But usually from a basic technical analysis 101, usually lows get tested in some shape or form. I don't think we're going from 20,000 back to 16,500 or from 5,600 down to 4,800. I don't think that's happening. But I think at some point there's going to be some kind of shake the tree type of movement to kind of get things going. A lot of these moves down to here were one-offs, sovereign wealth funds, Europeans selling U.S. equities. I think that that's done. So I don't know if we necessarily get all the way down here. Could we try and make a beeline towards 51, 52 just to shake the tree and see what happens? That wouldn't be as shocking. But I think more we may try and go to 54 just to again shake the tree a little bit and just attempt this retest of these lows, and then that might be it. I don't think we're out of the woods by any stretch of the imagination. I don't think we're going back up to 6,000, or 6,100, or even new highs. I don't think that that's on the in the cards for the remainder of the year. Best case scenario, I think that we're going to just build out in both S&Ps and tech. The reason why we focus on tech also more than any other sector is because it's about 31% of the S&P, so it's the largest sector. Because of that reason, you need to focus it. Without tech leading, S&P goes nowhere. Plain and simple. Okay. All right. Now let's just look quickly at Nicey Fang. Again, that's gonna look amazing. Obviously, Nicey Fang that does. You can't get any better if you're looking at an index. You cannot get any better looking than this. You had to move down. You kind of made a lower a higher low, had a little bit of a build out, and then you broke out from these highs. Day one, day two. I don't see why 13.4, 13.2 is not out of the cards. I mean, I think that we're definitely going to be going there. We're going to get into why. Um, so that takes care of that. Let's look quickly at semis. Semis, again, they're really in the middle of nowhere. They're just not doing anything. I mean, yeah, they've had a nice move, but they're okay. And which again, we're waiting on Broadcom and on Nvidia, so we'll have to see what they say. Let's just go quickly to the Russell. Russell also again coming off the bottom, looking nice. Russell was getting really hit. Russell's kind of coming back in line. Probably going to get to 21,000, 2,100. Sorry, we're probably going to get there. Looks like we want to get there. Which is a good thing when Russell is going and Russell's leading. That's risk on, so you want to see that. It's a good indicator to use. XLE again, not really doing much. We're going to get into that in a second. Banks doing pretty good. Let's look at the BKX. It's a little bit more of a pure play. BKX is better than the XLF because the BKX is pure banks, whereas the XLF has insurance companies and non-financials in there, whereas the BKX is strictly banks. So when you're looking at the XLF, you're getting, you have Berkshire in there, you have AIGs in there, you have the exchanges are in there, CME, NYSE, they're in there. So when I like to look at banks, I like to look at the BKX because it's a pure bank. So I don't have to worry about anything else being in there that doesn't belong there. Okay, so BKX is looking good. Okay, let's just quickly look at the OIH. OIH is interesting. We're gonna get into energy at the end, but OIH is looking kind of interesting. XOP also kind of looking interesting. Okay, let's get into the Mag 7, Mag whatever. So obviously Apple was having this nice move. They were running it up into earnings. We got the numbers. Boom. It wasn't hellacious, but it wasn't stupendous either. And they have problems. They have real problems with China. This is going to be a real problem for them. We're going to have to see how this is going to go. If you want to know how China talks are going, all you have to do is watch Apple. They're the most important company when it comes to China. Okay. Microsoft, again, I'll be honest with you, in my opinion, this is just my opinion, I think that Satya Nadella is one of the greatest CEOs ever. I think that the way he turned this company around, not just share price, but the way he turned this company around, I think there's going to be textbooks written about it. Just from a management standpoint, I think the guy is amazing. I really think he's probably one of the, Jamie Dimon always gets attributed as probably the best banking CEO. I think as an overall CEO, I think Satya Nadella, I think probably is number one. And I don't think he gets the credit he deserves, but that's a separate thing. But Microsoft looks amazing. I think Microsoft is going to take out these highs. I think 450 is going to be a drop in the bucket, and then 456, 460. If, as long as everything goes, I definitely think Microsoft is somewhere up here. I mean, it looks great. Um, Amazon, again, they're going to have a lot. Not again, they're going to have issues with the consumer, so they're going to be. We'll have to see what they do versus let's say Walmart. Again, retail. So we'll have to see how this plays out. Um, Google, as we know, did turned on the buyback machine. It had that gap up, filled the gap, bounced, and now is going back up. It's probably going to take out that earnings day, and maybe it makes a run for the 200. That's also looking good. Maybe it gets up to 175. Meta looking good too. They're starting to look good. Some of these tech companies are starting to definitely look good. Um, let's just look at Netflix a second. Netflix has been like a rock star. I mean, Netflix has just been a pure rock star. Is it getting long in the tooth? 100%. What, without even a doubt. Is it parabolic? I wouldn't call this parabolic, no, because you had that move where you had that thrust, and then it kind of relaxed, but it's still going up. At the same time, it looks like people are hiding there. Um, would I be buying it up here? No. Is it short? No. So something to always keep in mind. Just because something's not a buy does not mean it's a short. And the vice versa. Just because something's not a short doesn't mean it's a buy. If you're interested in Microsoft, I mean in Netflix, I would wait for pullbacks. That's what I would be waiting for if you're looking to get involved with it. I think trying to short this, I don't listen. Some people are very good at it. I just think that you can clearly see sentiment is to the upside. So I would be very careful trying to step in front of this. I think if you want to be involved, I would just wait for retracements and just buy retracements. I don't see why you wouldn't. You know, ServiceNow looking good, also looking good. CrowdStrike also looking really good. So that's why the NICE Fang is going the way it's going. We're going to look at just Nvidia and Broadcom quickly. Again, not doing anything. I think we're going to be waiting on that one. Um, Broadcom also, they're looking good. So it explains when you look at all this stuff, it explains why the NICE Fang looks the way it does. I mean, it doesn't take a rocket scientist to understand this. Okay. Tesla has its own problems. I'm seeing all kinds of issues with Tesla um, that I'm reading. I don't know what's real, what's not real. So I'm going to keep kind of not saying much about this. I will say that um, if they don't do something quickly in this company, then potential for these lows to be taken out are really high. I think I saw something over the weekend where I forgot which country it is, but their sales are basically zero. So this company is having a lot of issues, and I think the Musk factor is really not helping anymore. I think it's hurting them. So I don't know what happens here. I'm going to defer because I just don't know this company very well. Okay, let's look at natural gas quickly. So for those of you that don't know, natural gas had a sick move on earlier this week, and this massive pop that came out of nowhere. The news obviously was, for those of you that don't know, that there were three countries that went up that lost power: Portugal, France, and Spain. That's been restored. That's all fixed. It wasn't a terrorist thing. It was some kind of issue on the technology side. Something went wrong. I don't really know exactly what it was, so I'm not going to speak to it. I saw it a couple of times and I just don't remember. But that kind of lit a fire under natural gas. Natural gas is looking amazing. It looks really good. Um, Natural gas is going to do what it's going to do. I wouldn't, if you trade natural gas, be aware of it. If you don't trade natural gas, then you can just ignore this. Some of the companies that I like off of natural gas are Cheniere. I happen to like the company a lot. LNG, that looks really good. That's one that I tend to focus on. KMI, Kinder Morgan, another one for natural gas. Let's go to gold quickly. Okay, gold had its move. You know, now it's basically holding where it sort of needs to hold, to be honest with you. Could it keep going down? Anything is possible, but I think again, I think it bases. I think all-time highs are out of the way. I don't think that's going to happen again. I think a lot of this had to do with issues in the treasury market, with the treasury market exploding. So now that that's been solved, I don't think gold is going back up anymore. I think gold is done on the upside. I don't know if it's necessarily a short. I mean, it could be, but I think if you're looking for a retest of these highs, I think that's off the table for the time being. Um, you look at silver. Silver really was doing nothing. Also, industrial metal doing was literally doing nothing as gold was going. Platinum, same thing. Industrial metal was also doing nothing. So the gold story was very specific to gold and treasure and the treasury markets and what was going on over there. And obviously with gold being a referendum on central banks, and also when you have that issue with countries want to take their gold back, it's a different play. Whereas platinum, silver are more, and even copper are industrial metals, and that's going to give you strength and overall health of the economy globally. And they're not telling you a story that's amazing. So that's just a way to look at them. Okay, let's go to one of the things that I actually thought, just for a quick second, which I thought was going to be a little bit more in play, which actually was not, was soybeans. Soybeans are specific to China. China buys a lot of soybeans. So when soybeans are going down, when we have issues with China, when the US gets into these disagreements with China, soybeans are usually the first ones to get hit because they stop buying from here and they go to Brazil. Um, it didn't play out the way I thought it was going to play out. Does it mean that everything is clear? No, it just means that it hasn't decided what it wants to do yet. So that's just the way that I look at the market overall for China trade relations is really through soybeans when I through that lens. So that's another thing. Okay, we're just going to go quickly through. So we're going to get to oil last. Okay, so let's look at the 10-year. As you can tell, this is when the treasury market exploded. Now we're just basically living in the, let's just say 4.3 area, let's say 4.2 to 4.3 area. You know, could we get up to 4.4? I don't know. I would be watching this. It's definitely important, but I would be careful to see how this plays out. Okay, just something to always keep in the back of your mind. All right, oil. Again, I did a whole thing on oil. I'm gonna, that's gonna be posted as separate. But just to give a quick quick idea of what's going on in oil. This is a daily. I get again. I'm going to get into more of the oil trade separately. The news is that for those of you that was living under a rock, that OPEC pushed up the meeting. They were supposed to have the meeting Monday, Tuesday. It was scheduled for the 6th of May. Instead, they did it yesterday on Saturday. They moved it. They moved it up. They are increasing production by an additional 411 barrels per day, 411,000 barrels per day, which basically means that we're almost at a million barrels of supply coming onto the market um, as we speak. It's going in, and because of this reason, analysts are all bearish. So obviously the news is bearish. For a nutshell, OPEC is, in my opinion, trying to show the world as well as this administration, but really, I think it's really geared towards this administration that we control the price of oil. We're the cartel that controls it, not you. And basically, shut your big mouth because we're going to show you where oil is going to go. You may want oil down, but as the Chinese always like to say, beware of what you wish for. Um, I do think oil is going to have a four in front of it. I don't know if it's sustainable with a four in front of it. That's to be seen. There will be a gap tonight. I don't know if it's going to be up. I don't know if it's going to be down. The news, obviously interpreted, assumes down. It could go up. It could go nowhere. I don't know. And to be honest with you, I don't even care. The reality is, it's more about how do we play it in order to make money. That's really what it's about. Everything else is secondary. Interpreting news becomes very dangerous because if you're wrong, you're going to get your clock cleaned. So it's a dangerous game. With that being said, there is supply coming. There is a situation where lower oil prices becomes an issue, and it becomes destructive in nature, and that's really where we're going at this point. Um, We could tomorrow, tonight have a gap, whichever, and then basically do nothing. The remainder of the week, I don't know. There's a lot of volatility now starting to pick up in the energy markets. It's not so much in crude, it's more natural gas. If you look at natural gas, the volatility in natural gas is just insane. Insane in a good way, because as a trader, volatility is your best friend. But it's definitely the natural gas markets are way more volatile right now than the crude than oil. Oil is not as volatile. It's just more subdued in the way it's moving. Um, but again, we'll see how this plays out. I have a little bit more of a detail coming out on oil just for that specific, and that's about it. Economic wise, let's just see if we have any. I don't know if we have that much data coming this week that we need to really pay attention to, but let's just double check because the last thing we want to do is not know what's coming, and then we could run into issues, right? We don't want that. So let's just see what's coming. Let's just see what's coming out data wise this week that we need to pay attention to quickly. So tomorrow we're going to get PMIs, S&P PMIs, and ISM. We're going to get that tomorrow morning. On Tuesday, we're going to have import exports. That's going to be very important for us. There is auctions, but we're not going to get to that. There's auctions every day. Um, on I would say on Wednesday, we're going to get mortgage information. I would pay attention to that just because you want to get an overall idea of what's going on in the housing market, which will then relate to where the consumer is. We get wholesale inventories this week. We're going to get to the foreign stuff in a minute. And then on Friday, we have a bunch of Fed speakers. Okay. Foreign information, foreign data that's coming out that's going to be important for this week. We will have on where is it? Hold on, here we go. Oh, also, more importantly, on Wednesday, I forgot. On Wednesday, we're going to have, completely forgot about this. On Wednesday, we do have a Fed meeting and there is a press conference. So this will be a very, very closely watched one. If you're an industry trader, just be aware that we may do nothing Monday, Tuesday, Wednesday going into this because people are really, really trying to figure out what the Fed's next move are, what the Fed's next move is. We're going to get to that where the Fed is in a second. So that's Wednesday is rock show day. So be careful, be aware of that. On Thursday, we're going to get a bunch of China data, import exports, balance of trade. Those are going to be coming out. And then on Friday night, we're going to have from China a bunch of inflation. There's going to be more inflation data, PPI, vehicle sales, a lot of stuff coming out. So when we look out to where the market is on the Fed for rates, let's just see where we are. Let's just see where they are. 1 second. Let me just get it up. So the likelihood of them keeping rates steady at this meeting are pretty much 97%. So they're not really going anywhere. It looks like they're starting to price in cuts in June and July. July is really where they're really expecting it. In June, they're expecting a 25 bit. It's like 34%, but really it's July where they really expect it to happen. There's over a 55% chance that they're going to do their cut for first cut in July. So that's where the market is thinking. Again, we're going to be watching what they have to say. Wednesday is going to be crucial for what they have to say. Okay, that's about it. Have a great week. Enjoy, be safe, be smart, and good luck.